Only a few months after their initial duel on Geonosis, as seen in Episode 2, Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker would once again engage the Sith Lord Dooku in lightsaber combat, a duel depicted in the Clone Wars movie, this time on the planet of Tatooine. However, although only weeks separated these two duels, Anakin was much more successful in his second duel with Dooku. While Anakin did demonstrate tremendous lightsaber skills on Geonosis, pressing the attack against Dooku at different points in the duel, the Episode 2 novelization reveals from Obi-Wan's perspective that Anakin's attacks couldn't be sustained against the Sith Lord. Anakin was utilizing significantly more energy than Dooku was, prompting Obi-Wan to assist in some way by providing Anakin with his lightsaber. This isn't surprising, given that Dooku was one of the greatest lightsaber duelists of his era, his proficiency with Form 2 allowing him to be efficient and precise. Of course, Anakin would eventually be soundly defeated by Dooku on Geonosis, with the Jedi having sustained a devastating injury at the end of the duel. And yet, despite the outcome of Geonosis, when the two duelists confronted each other again months later on Tatooine, the duel was very different. Although I wouldn't say that Anakin could necessarily match Dooku at this point or emerge victorious as he would in Episode 3, Anakin had clearly improved significantly since their first duel. Anakin was able to engage Dooku in lightsaber combat for much longer on Tatooine, in a duel with numerous exchanges. Anakin was even able to score direct strike against Dooku, a powerful kick knocking the Sith Lord to the ground, allowing Anakin to choose to end the duel when he believed it was more important to assist Ahsoka and their mission on Tatooine than continue against Dooku. In fact, Anakin's improvement was even recognized by Dooku himself, as he told Anakin that his training had, quote, come a long way, demonstrating the difference that existed between the Anakin he faced on Geonosis and who Dooku then engaged on Tatooine. But is there a good explanation within the Legends lore that explains how Anakin was able to improve so quickly and significantly in the time between the two duels with Dooku? Fortunately, there is within the Legends novel The Clone Wars Wild Space. As we'll see, the weeks and months that followed Episode 2 were significantly important for Anakin, where he would make large improvements, so much so that even Anakin recognized that the events seen within the Clone Wars movie, including his duel with Dooku, would act as the catalyst that allowed him to complete his transformation from Jedi Padawan to Jedi Knight. There are two important aspects that account for Anakin's greater success against Dooku in their second duel. The first was Anakin's ability to understand the reasons for his defeat to Dooku on Geonosis, where he would become a much different Jedi than he was during Episode 2. And the second was Anakin's significant improvement in lightsaber combat. Let's start by looking at this first aspect. In the immediate aftermath of his defeat to Dooku, Anakin was haunted by what occurred on Geonosis, experiencing numerous nightmares of the duel and its brutal end. And it wasn't just the physical aspects of the duel and his injury that plagued Anakin during this time, but also his perception that he failed. At this point, it was entirely possible that Anakin was never able to trust himself and his skills again, the confidence he had shattered by his first duel with Dooku. However, this of course was not the outcome, and following Episode 2, Anakin was able to overcome the negative aspects of his first duel with Dooku through the help and patience of Padme and Obi-Wan, as his rekindled joy allowed Anakin to experience a tremendous individual improvement in this way. This isn't unimportant when it comes to explaining the differences between the duels with Anakin and Dooku on Geonosis and Tatooine, despite the fact that only months separated them. As revealed in the novel The Clone Wars Wild Space, this new perspective allowed Anakin to learn considerably from his defeat to Dooku. In a conversation they had in the weeks that followed Episode 2, Anakin apologized to Obi-Wan for the outcome of their duel against Dooku. Anakin took full responsibility for what occurred, recognizing that it was his arrogance, impatience, and failure to listen to Obi-Wan that resulted in his own defeat, and which almost resulted in the death of Obi-Wan. It demonstrated so much wisdom and understanding that Obi-Wan said nothing relating to Anakin's shortcomings during their duel with Dooku on Geonosis. He simply forgave Anakin, while apologizing himself for not being able to help Anakin save his mother Shmi. All of this demonstrates a significant change in Anakin during the opening weeks of the Clone War, where he was not the same Jedi who dueled Dooku on Geonosis. Through the help of Padme and Obi-Wan, Anakin was able to experience an important transformative period in his life that allowed him to deeply understand his shortcomings and weaknesses that resulted in his defeat to Dooku. This was so significant that Anakin recognized that by the time he confronted Dooku again on Tatooine, he'd successfully made the change from Jedi Padawan to Jedi Knight, with his duel against Dooku being the catalyst that completed this process. As demonstrated in the novel The Clone Wars Wildspace, the Anakin who dueled Dooku on Geonosis was not the same individual, the same Jedi, who dueled Dooku on Tatooine. Anakin's ability to confidently and truthfully assess the weaknesses that led to his initial defeat was important to the outcome of his second duel with Dooku. But even with Anakin being able to correctly define his shortcomings in the first duel, and the positive changes he was able to make personally, he still needed the lightsaber skills that would allow him to be successful against a skilled lightsaber duelist such as Dooku. Fortunately for Anakin, as Dooku recognized himself on Tatooine, his lightsaber skills did improve significantly as well. And this important second aspect that explains Anakin's improvement and greater success in his second duel with Dooku so soon after Episode 2 is also revealed in the Clone Wars Wildspace novel. From the novel, it's clear that Anakin was determined to improve his skills in lightsaber combat in the opening days and weeks of the Clone War. In having successfully learned from his mistakes on Geonosis, the Clone Wars Wildspace states that Anakin dedicated himself to countless hours of lightsaber practice, using his time to prepare for the conflict that had just been unleashed upon the galaxy. Even more, Anakin wasn't merely carrying out this practice by himself, but he was practicing and sparring with Obi-Wan as well, who of course was a formidable duelist, thereby helping Anakin in his improvement. In Obi-Wan, Anakin had a training partner who he recognized was one of the Jedi Order's most accomplished and formidable duelists. During these early weeks of the Clone War, Anakin would conclude that there was nothing he enjoyed more than sparring, demonstrating the enthusiasm and devotion he had to lightsaber training. And importantly, Anakin didn't simply improve his lightsaber abilities in training sessions. In the earliest weeks of the war, he also engaged the Separatist droid army on battlefields across the galaxy prior to his second duel with Dooku, such as on Christophsis. Although he wasn't utilizing his training directly against other lightsaber-wielding enemies, the Clone War provided Anakin with a way to put his training into practice within actual combat situations. All of this further assisted the significant improvement Anakin made between the weeks that separated his duels with Dooku on Geonosis and then on Tatooine, as he fully dedicated himself to become a better lightsaber duelist after Episode 2, acquiring new skills and adding them to his already impressive abilities. The Clone Wars Wildspace novel does depict a lightsaber sparring session between Obi-Wan and Anakin in the aftermath of the Battle of Christophsis. More than anything, the two Jedi were putting their abilities on display within the Jedi Temple, and the training session was much more lighthearted than what might occur within an actual training session. But I think the scene does much more than show a single sparring session between Anakin and Obi-Wan. Rather, it perfectly expresses the point that through the efforts Anakin made early in the Clone War, by the time he dueled Dooku again on Tatooine, he was already one of the most powerful Jedi within the Order, possessing unmatched skills with a lightsaber. Therefore, although Anakin would engage Dooku in lightsaber combat again only a few months after Episode 2, these weeks saw Anakin make significant improvements in a number of ways that would assist him against Dooku on Tatooine. The time separating the two duels was tremendously important to Anakin as a Jedi and to him personally, as he was able to recognize his weaknesses and undergo a transformation from the Jedi Padawan he was in Episode 2 to the Jedi Knight who ultimately emerged during the Clone War. But this period was also important for Anakin as a lightsaber duelist, as he dedicated himself to becoming prepared for the coming war by spending countless hours engaging in lightsaber practice, which included sparring sessions with Obi-Wan. All of this wouldn't allow Anakin to defeat Dooku on Tatooine in their second duel, and he certainly didn't have the abilities he would have by the time of Episode 3, roughly 3 years later. But it did allow Anakin to be much more successful against Dooku when they confronted each other again so soon after Geonosis. So there we have it, how Anakin was able to improve so much by the time of his duel with Dooku on Tatooine only months after Episode 2. Thank you very much to all of the Patreon members of Star Wars Reading Club, as your support is so greatly appreciated. You can find all of our social media links and a link to our Star Wars gaming channel in the description below for updates and even more Star Wars content. We love making these videos, so why not subscribe for more fun Star Wars theories and discussions. Also, if you enjoyed the video, think about giving a like or leaving a comment. If not for me, for important lessons.